All right, Brendan Coates here, founder and host of Longevity Summit Canada, and we're here at headquarters of Acorn Labs here in Toronto. Amazing Toronto. We would not know that these types of businesses and enterprises and incredible trailblazers like yourself are in Toronto. These types of practices are sometimes usually found in the States. So it's pretty cool to have you in our backyard. So Doctor, thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
All right. And you've got an athletic background and you're trying to figure out how you could repair your body. Is that correct? And then that kind of led into where we're at now?
Yeah, I think every athlete has experienced a moment where their body doesn't do exactly what they want it to do. So I think there's always room for improvement. In my particular instance, I was a pitcher, so I played baseball. Come from a bit of a baseball family. My dad was a pitcher as well. Had a hell of a career, and I was following in his footsteps. Ended up having an arm injury and torn my labrum and supraspinatus. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a pretty limited blood flow in your labrum. Rotator cuff is pretty fragile and often doesn't come back 100%. And so those are some experiences that unfortunately led to, I guess, the slow demise of my long-term plans for a baseball career. But was very lucky. Not only was my dad a phenomenal influence in baseball, but he also went back and became a medical doctor after his career. And so I was keeping pace on that side as well. And so I was studying regenerative medicine and doing a PhD in biomedical engineering here at the University of Toronto in the off seasons. Mm-hmm. And so that I had a good backup plan.
And so, Dr. Drew, you are the founder of Acorn Labs. It is a stem cell, would it be fair to say, a research and sort of applicable lab that you're, right?
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
Yeah, I would say that, we are essentially a regenerative medicine company.
Okay.
We've got two sides of what we do. Mm-hmm. The first side is really striving to make sure that we are able to lock in the value of a patient's own biologic material today. Mm-hmm. And that is a resource for a lot of different stakeholders in regenerative medicine. One, the patient themselves. So being able to receive their own cells back, autologous cells, is absolutely the safest and most efficient way to deliver value back to somebody. You don't have to put a patient on immunosuppressants. Right. There's no rejection risk.
Sure.
A whole host of reasons. Mm-hmm. So we have a system set up to cryogenically freeze their own cells so that they stop aging. No more cell metabolism. They literally are frozen in time. And that acts as an ongoing resource that they can draw upon that.
Right.
But we want to really create a platform here where the physician then is able to leverage those cells to deliver the next generation of patient care for their patient.
Right.
And then also all of the other researchers and companies really around the world that are developing regenerative medicine strategies, they need a source of cells.
Right.
Right? Like, we're not going into clean rooms and manufacturing compounds, right, chemically in pharmacology. We're delivering regenerative medicine. And so mm-hmm. that starting material is actually cells. Mm-hmm. And so if we can actually provide the best version of that patient for our endeavors, for the physician's endeavors, for any company's endeavors on delivering value
right.
in regenerative medicine back to patients, mm-hmm. we can act as that starting material.
How exciting is that?
Yeah.
And so let's go back to your injury really quick.
Yeah.
Because was it through investigation of your own stem cells, or was this using other stem cells for your own repair, or were stem cells even a thing at that time?
They were. I have to admit, I was interested in this space before the injury.
Okay.
Right. So it probably accelerated my excitement. I mean, I still hold on to the possibility of repairing my shoulder and giving it another shot.
Yeah.
I still have
on the mound.
I still have dreams. I still wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and I'm pitching, so it never goes away.
Yeah.
That being said, I was luckily introduced to medicine and even regenerative medicine at a very young age, before it really was a big word. When I was in grade 7, I believe it was, I was doing a science fair at school, and you had to pick something mechanical that you would break down and present on.
Okay.
And I was already attracted to healthcare, and so I picked a total knee arthroplasty, so a fake knee, right?
Okay.
A knee replacement. And there's like 5 kids that did guitars, and like someone, like it was just
sure.
I was definitely a little bit odd there, but it was a different time. I was able to actually go into an OR. I don't think you could do that today, but when I was, dating myself a little bit back then, you could have an observation area.
Yeah.
So I got to go in and witness the surgery,
right,
and watch someone get a knee replacement. I mean, what an experience when you're in grade 7, or 7th grade. I can't remember how they say it in the U.S. versus Canada. Either we're all Canadian, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I can say it either way. So I ended up going into the OR, witnessing this thing, this orchestra, honestly, of all these different people contributing their own elements to being able to really deliver this phenomenal outcome for the patient. What I wasn't prepared to see was how young the patient was.
Okay.
I was expecting to see like my great grandma rolled in, right? And it ended up being a younger woman in my mind, even at that age, that I wasn't expecting needed a new knee. So I asked the physician about this when we were doing kind of the rounds the next day, and we were on our way to go visit. And they said, look, it is absolutely a phenomenal surgery, and we're going to deliver benefit. But you're right, that patient is younger. And
why did that person need the surgery?
Well, that's a good question. I don't remember if it was trauma. I don't remember if there was something congenital. Like, who knows? But they needed a knee replacement.
Yep.
And they were wheeled in a wheelchair, right? Because obviously walking was painful for them. And we're talking as we're walking into the room, and it's the next day after surgery. She literally stood up out of bed and went to give the surgeon a hug because of how much better she felt for the first time in a long time, even the next day, right? So obviously, it was a very impactful, to this person.
Yeah.
And they were getting emotional. And so anyway, we're walking away from that, and they were remarking that, look at it, she's younger, she'll need another one, right? At some point, and she probably will need a third operation at some point because these things only last 10 to 15 years at the time.
Got it.
And she will have, she's middle-aged or somewhat, there's going to be multiple needs here. And then they said something that really stuck with me. They said, what's going to happen in your lifetime is instead of putting in metals and plastics, we're going to be treating that with a patient's own cells.
Talk about planting the seeds.
Exactly. Right. And so,
and of course they said it to you.
Of course. Right. So anyway, that was super impactful to me, just thinking about the opportunity to recreate a person's own tissues and replenish something that has the ability to continue to heal and respond to shear forces and stressors like biologic material. That was kind of the spark that made me think, this is the future.
So did that catalyze your purpose right then and there?
I think eventually, right? Like I was still pretty young,
Yep.
still in grade 7. So I actually wanted to be a surgeon all along. And so I ended up going and doing pre-med at University of Michigan, playing baseball for them. And I worked hard academically, was able to leave Michigan with an undergrad and a master's done by the time I finished up baseball there, and ended up simultaneously getting accepted to medical school and drafted by the Blue Jays. So I was offered this contract with the Jays, and of course that's my dream. Now I foolishly, I would say, went in and actually talked with the dean and said, look, is it possible for me to do both? And I think when the laughter stopped, I think he realized what I was trying to accomplish here and at least appreciated it. So he said, look, you can't do an MD at the same time as playing professional baseball. You're just away too much, and there's too much patient interaction that's necessary for the training. But have you thought of a PhD? And so I transferred into a PhD program, and that PhD was focused on stem cells and regenerative medicine. I did at the University of Toronto and majored in biomedical engineering, and then specialized in stem cells, regenerative medicine, and was really focused on leveraging a patient's own cells to regenerate connective tissues.
Right. And so that's been the main driving force, is just finding ways that you can influence, impact, increase healing through different types of injuries.
Yeah.
Initially, but now it's turning into a regenerative where now it's even proactive, and now we're achieving all sorts of different outcomes and desirables.
Yeah, I think regenerative medicine in itself is really interesting because its goal is essentially to move ourselves back in time to a level of performance of our own tissues before either damage due to disease, aging, or injury.
Okay.
The best way to do that, and this is in my mind where we see this intersection of preventative medicine and reactionary medicine. In regenerative medicine, you need both sides,
right?
And I think that's a really beautiful thing, because so much of our system is focused on reactionary medicine.
Of course,
right? We have a symptom, let's deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think with regenerative medicine, there really is across the board a mindset of getting ahead of that curve and trying to do things to maintain performance. And so 2 areas that we focus in initially is the world of aesthetic medicine and then the world of sports and orthopedics. And both of these areas are very arguable to say this is a performance question, right? It's getting the best and the most performance out of our tissues, both aesthetically, right, and health-wise of our skin, what we see, as well as that layer of connective tissue, muscles, tendons, ligaments, bone, all of these things that allow us to perform physically. And so that's a huge area that I think is both of those two huge areas, in my mind, are leading the charge in applying regenerative medicine today.
Right.
And that's an area that obviously we have selected as delivering the first value for patients back from their own bank cells. So we brought to fruition the first opportunity to draw upon that bank and actually create a product to deliver your own personalized regenerative medicine back to yourself. And it is in the world of aesthetics. So it's topically for skin and hair. And it is essentially an opportunity to take your own stem cells that we've harvested. We haven't even gotten into how we do that, but
we will.
It's simple, non-invasive, right? So from hair follicles, we grow those cells out, those mesenchymal stem cells, and we collect all of the growth factors, exosomes, matrix molecules, peptides that are released, and we can actually package that together in a shelf-stable product, lyophilized, that can go back to your physician and be delivered to yourself over time.
Amazing. Here's a question. What would you say the ratio is, Doc, of individuals that are pursuing skincare routines, regimens that are reactive in terms of trying to turn back the clocks of time, or those that are being proactive that really aren't even displaying signs of aging, that have the conscious awareness that they want to sort of maintain that? What would you say that ratio is?
Yeah, I think it's tough to predict right now because I think it's actually in that middle of shifting over.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Originally, I think that the aesthetics industry is actually fairly new in the way it stands today, and a lot of that was led when Botox came to market and brought a bunch of attention. Before that, it was really a lot of just skin care.
Yep.
Now that has opened up the floodgates for all of these new technologies to come to fruition to try to improve the health of our skin and the appearance of our skin. So what I think, those two things aren't always the same.
Say that again.
The health of our skin and the appearance of our skin. Those two things aren't always the same.
Okay.
So right now, a lot of technologies have come out and had their moment and left in the world of aesthetics. What we're seeing a massive focus on right now is skin health. And that skin health will deliver better skin appearance as well.
Of course.
So those being more hand in hand. So short-term benefit and things like that are fallen by the wayside. People want true long-term health benefits to their skin. It's the largest organ on our body.
Yep.
It is the thing that protects us from ultraviolet light and radiation and all of these things. And so making sure that it is able to do its job later in life is very important.
Yeah.
I would say that right now there is a massive number of young people that are engaging in things to try to slow down the aging of their skin. And if you talk to some of the major players in the industry, they are always talking in terms of the longevity that we have out of skin health and starting to look for markers and interventions that are not just for appearance, but for just making sure that the skin is able to stay healthy as long as possible.
And that's ultimately it. I think there's a confusion, or we've got this hyper focus on aesthetics or how it appears, but realistically, it's purely functioning on the back end. If we focus more so on the function, its ability to protect us, then of course we're going to have a more better looking skin regardless of the outcome.
Absolutely.
Right. So you said two streams or two avenues right now. Acorn is predominantly in skin.
Well, Acorn is banking, right, is our first avenue, really, that I would say is how we have kind of solidified an opportunity to deliver to any physician, because that is agnostic to how you're planning on using those cells. It's just, that's tuck away part of you. So
explain that for the viewers and the listenership one more time, just so you can really, really paint the picture.
Yeah.
So if we were to break it down, you're extracting...
So we extract stem cells from your hair follicles. So the hair follicles on your head have a bulb at the bottom. So if you've ever caught and plucked a hair follicle, you have that white tip at the bottom. That tip is full of thousands of cells.
Okay.
And many of them in high concentrations clustered in that inner root sheath and bulge area are mesenchymal stem cells.
Which are?
Mesenchymal stem cells are from the mesoderm. They have the innate ability to become cartilage, fat, and bone.
Incredible.
And the ones in the hair follicle seem to also have some extra abilities that go beyond that. They have a lower amount of inflammatory molecules when compared to stem cells from other places.
Okay.
And they're the only mesenchymal stem cell, because we also have mesenchymal stem cells in our fat and our bone, that we have seen have the ability to turn into ectodermal cell lineages like neurons.
Okay. Interesting.
So that was a lot, but
now I want to go back one more time a little bit, just because I want to geek out just a little. The body is regenerating at all sorts of different rates, right? Bone versus liver versus skin and hair. So is there something to say about the rate of which these cells are proliferating in our hair follicle versus bone, for example? Is there something to say about performance and ability to regenerate faster than bone cells, for example? Because typically people are getting their cells from their bones.
What was the first place we discovered these mesenchymal, right, stem cells is in bone. And so that's where they were discovered. And then they were found also dispersed throughout fat. And now we've also sourced them in the hair follicle. But a lot of that work has only really come to light in the last decade. We've known about bone marrow and the MSCs in bone marrow for decades. So I think it's a matter of education and understanding different places to get these. Bone marrow is fairly invasive to harvest.
Right.
It's not impossible, but you are tapping in through the iliac crest into your bone.
Yeah.
It doesn't tickle. On the other side, fat, those cells are dispersed throughout fat. So the question is, how do you get access to just those stem cells if you wanted?
Sure.
And get rid of the adipocytes, or the true fat cells. The other issue with fat has been in our work. It is fat soluble, right? So it's oil based. And all of the cryoprotectants that we have access to, right, that we've invented that allow us to preserve cells cryogenically are water-soluble compounds.
Yeah, they're going to break down those other cells, or they're going to freeze them.
They're just not able to penetrate them with the same efficiency.
Okay.
Because ultimately what the cryoprotectants are trying to do is inhibit the formation of ice crystals inside and completely adjacent to cells,
right?
Because that will actually lyse the phospholipid bilayer and the organelles, and you're going to end up having cell death.
Right.
So if you can inhibit that freezing,
sure,
and stop ice crystal formation, you're going to save those cells.
Yeah.
And those cryoprotectants operate through solubilizing through water, and so cells that are water based as opposed to oil based, right, like our fat cells, they just perform better. And so bone marrow and cells and the MSCs from a hair follicle, they both cryogenically freeze with much better efficiency,
right, and
much more long-term value. Whereas you see that there's a faster degradation of some of the non-water soluble cell types, when you try to freeze them down.
Yeah. Now also, there's moral and ethical logistics when it comes to deriving other cells. Right? There's umbilical cells that I know that people are using and so forth. So it's interesting, or how cool is that we're able to utilize our own, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So what's next after you've been able to, extract them? Now you can essentially, I'm going to use the word warehouse them, but in a cryogenic environment.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Liquid nitrogen.
What's next?
So next is now let's deliver value back to the patients. It's great that we have this biologic health insurance policy, and this opportunity to freeze you down or part of you. And
how cool is that?
Have you be timeless. Right?
I love that. It's an insurance policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Part of you will never age another day.
Okay.
And so you can tap into that now, because we do alquat it, or separate it into multiple vials before we freeze it. And so you could draw one of those vials out, and you can grow up your cells. And the first wave of what we're applying today and is available is we actually skim, as those cells are growing from the media, all of the growth factors, exosomes, matrix molecules like collagens and elastin and fibronectin, right? These building blocks of our own biology. We can capture that and bottle it, even lyophilize it, so freeze dry it,
right, so
that it is now shelf stable.
Okay.
And now that can be waiting at your doctor's office, and as you go in, they can resolubilize that and use it on you. Right now, we're seeing a lot of people using it in aesthetic medicine. And so this is topically applying this alongside essentially microneedling. So you're creating these like micro damage things and applying this so you get better absorption.
Sure.
Laser, which is like skin resurfacing to try to like re-engage, the healing of our skin to create a more youthful surface. And then on top of that, applying it on scar lines. So if you're going in for either an elective or unfortunately a non-elective procedure and you're worried about scar tissue, you can apply these to promote healing and proper alignment of those collagen fibers.
Is it all just through topical administration with microneedling? Do you need that in order to deliver those cells?
So what we are doing is there's the secretome, right, is the entire secreted product that's released by those cells.
Okay.
And so that is that's the word that really describes the collective total of those exosomes, the growth factors, the matrix molecules. They're different sizes. The large matrix molecules like collagens and elastins, unless they're very short chain or segments, they don't pass through your skin and get absorbed. The growth factors can come in contact with skin and get absorbed, and some of the nutrients and vitamins that are going to be naturally in this. And then the next thing is the exosomes. The exosomes, and we could talk forever about these things, but exosomes is a extremely elegant delivery system. Think of it like Amazon Prime for the human body. Okay. Your stem cells release all of these Amazon Prime packages, and they have the ability to go to a site of need, a cell or your home, except the exosomes are made of the same surface as your cells. So they can actually merge and go into your front door and essentially deliver and open that package inside. And that's something that's very unique to these things. And so if they come in contact with a healthy skin cell, not the dead skin cells on your surface. So washing your face very rigorously can expose those, right? But we all have dead skin on the surface. If they come in contact with a healthy skin cell, they can deliver their contents inside the cell. All of these molecules can travel down pores or travel through follicles. And that's the other use that we're seeing really start to rise, is people are leveraging their secretome from their own cells to stimulate hair growth.
Incredible. So we've got skin repair in terms of scars, other things like that, and then you're seeing hair regeneration. What was a question that I was going to ask? I'm gonna have to recircle that. We're gonna have to pause on that. What was it? I can't remember. It was something. Oh yeah. So you'd mentioned that you provide these cells to a GP or your doctor's office. Now, how many GPs or doctors are on board with this, and how many are like, what the heck, no chance am I going to administer this? How do you get around that, or are you training other clinicians to administer? Please just explain that.
Yeah, so we absolutely engage with physicians and train them in how to deliver this effectively, and also help them develop the protocols and how to apply this. We have protocols in all those areas we've discussed. Now, this is new. And so right now we're talking with a number of partners about onboarding this in, and we're getting the word out. Never do I hear there's no way I'm doing this. People are very excited about this technology. We're also doing it in a very, I think, ethically responsible way. So this is the opposite of what you would think of as like travel stem cell tourism or something.
Sure,
right? Like
of course.
This is operating within Health Canada or the FDA specifications and making sure that we are using a patient's own cells. So eliminating the need for immunosuppressants or rejection issues.
Of course.
The first wave of the secretome is leveraging our stem cell byproducts, but not delivering the live cells themselves. So again, another thing that regulatory bodies seem to be much more excited about, this being a stepping stone towards, like more invasive deliveries. And we're doing it topically. So it is considered a cosmetic topical treatment. So we're doing everything within the parameters that we are allowed to do it in the framework that has been set up by regulatory bodies to prioritize patient safety. And we register our studies and our data collections with clinicaltrials.gov, and we use ethics boards to oversee all of the work that we do. And so right now you can walk into a practitioner, and we've got, it's growing every day, but there's over 100 of them across North America that offer this. So you can find them pretty easily in most major cities. And then beyond that, as we continue to progress, there are opportunities for physicians to work with us on a study where they have approvals around applying this in very specific ways beyond what's already available.
Yeah, how amazing. And that's what's one of the things, Dr. Drew, I'm so excited about the Longevity Summit in August is because
We're going to talk about them, aren't we?
Well, there's going to be so many professionals at the expo.
Yeah.
And you're going to be introduced and they're going to know who you are, and who knows, there's going to be so many different potential collaborations and partnerships where other clinicians are going to be able to utilize your science and technology. And ultimately, you've created a medical model that was once sort of only available in the medical field, and now it's opening up to a lot of different opportunities and practitioners. And I know there's aesthetics, there's a lot of even nurse practitioners could potentially be using individuals' cells. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that, right now we're working with mostly physician-led centers, but I mean, there's a massive opportunity as we grow for different layers of how this is going to be administered. I think that the physician's always going to have a role in this, especially on the leading edge of those invasive deliveries and acting as a principal investigator on studies. But there is a massively growing opportunity of putting regenerative medicine into the hands of disparate and various healthcare practitioners, not just the docs themselves.
Amazing. Now, am I allowed to ask what's coming up in the pipeline or what's in the future of Acorn? Because I heard that there's some.
You got to come to the summit. That's what we're. Yeah.
I guess that's what it is. We can hint and we can allude to it, but you're going to be sharing some really cool additional information.
Yeah, we got some new data that we're planning on sharing on stage, so we're excited about that, and I think that's going to be a really great moment for us to kind of share the next wave of things to the world, and we're really excited about it. But it'll be a bit of a reveal.
Amazing. I can't wait. So, Longevity Summit Canada here with Dr. Drew Taylor, founder, CEO of Acorn Labs here in Toronto. Who would have thought?
Toronto has a pretty rich history in stem cells, I have to say. Like we're quiet about it. Yeah. But some phenomenal researchers. The stem cell was actually discovered here.
Was it?
Yeah. And in some of the first experiments in understanding how a stem cell works and performs and its ability to replicate, create mother-daughter cells. Yeah. All of that work was done here originally, and we've had a long list of phenomenal stem cell researchers, including, I'll call out one of them that I had a chance to have as a mentor when I was going through my PhD, but Andras Nagy, who is the second person in the world to create an iPSC line after Yamanaka in Japan, who won the Nobel Prize.
Pardon my ignorance, what is a iPSC line?
iPSC is an induced pluripotent stem cell.
Okay.
So when we talk about some of the things that we're going to be using our own cells for, the first wave is leveraging acellular things like the secretome topically, then more invasively like injectably or alongside wound healing and things that where you have open skin. And then I think there's another ground of using our own live cells that are minimally manipulated. Right. So our cells in our hair follicle, this mesenchymal cells, they have the ability to service us in a number of different areas without having to manipulate them heavily. So they'll naturally grow into fat, bone, cartilage, and we've even shown neurons. Not only neurons, but we've been able to push them into dopaminergic neurons, the neurons we lose during Parkinson's
Now we're going to start to really geek out. Yeah. So for those that love this type of stuff, and if you want to see a living legend demonstrate his knowledge and wisdom in this is why we've done it. This is why Longevity Summit is here, so that we can showcase heroes in our own backyard, right? Again, who would have thought? So this is very, very exciting times.
Well, those are humbling statements. There'll be some amazing people at this conference. I'm excited to be amongst them.
Well, I'm very excited to put the spotlight on you because you certainly deserve it, and you're a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. So thank you so much. And we're looking forward to seeing you at Longevity Summit Canada, August 9th, 10th, and 11th, right here in Toronto. See you there, Dr. Drew.
See you there.
Okay.